Welcome to Unpacked Podcast with your host, leadership consultant Ron Harvey of Global Core Strategies and Consulting. Ron believes that leadership is the fundamental driver towards making a difference. So now, to find out more of what it means to unpack leadership, here's your host, Ron Harvey.
Good morning. This is Ron Harvey. I'm the Vice President, the Chief Operating Officer for Global Core Strategies and Consulting, which is a leadership firm. We're based out of Columbia, South Carolina, and we spend all of our time really helping our leaders be better connected to their workforce and taking care of people to get things done and see them more than just an instrument within the organization. But do you really know your people and your team, and do you really care about them so they can help things take place and get done in your organization? So we love what we do, but we pause and do a podcast, and we bring guests from around the world with different backgrounds to share the things and the lessons learned behind the curtain. So you're going to get a lot of information from this particular interview about leadership and coming out of boots to boardrooms and doing different things outside of the uniform. So you'll enjoy this guest that's with us this morning. We'll have fun. I don't know what I'm going to ask her other than we're going to talk about leadership. You know how we do it on the show. If you're following us, you know how we really bring like real transparent conversation for you to learn something from our experiences, and hopefully you become a better leader than what we've done in the past. And we feel like we've done well, but we want you to be better than us. So that's why we do this particular podcast. So we're going to dive in, and I'm happy to say that I have a friend, a colleague, someone that is near and dear to Linda and I in our organization, Dr. Kim Moore, and I'll let her introduce herself. But Dr. Kim Moore, thank you for saying yes without even knowing the questions. I appreciate it. So let me invite you to the table to introduce yourself however you wish, and then we'll really get into the conversation.
Well, good morning, Ron, and thank you for this privilege to be on your podcast today. And so, as you said, we are friends, colleagues. We work well together because we are both part of Maxwell Leadership. Yeah. And so I agreed to do this podcast, not just for you, Ron, but really for my friend Linda.
Yes.
So please make sure Linda knows that I'm here because of Linda.
Yes.
But as you said, I am Kim Moore. I am a leadership coach. I write a weekly blog post and podcast all around leadership. And that's how you and I actually connected, was on our journey of how do we help people be better leaders? Because leadership is a privilege. It is not a right. And so as leaders, we have to always take in consideration that we are there to serve. I know the title implies we're the ones in charge, and we do have responsibility and accountability, but we're really there to serve the people we have the privilege to lead. And that's what I do in my business of consulting and training and speaking, is I encourage people to, one, improve their leadership, embrace the journey of being a leader, but understanding the responsibility that comes along with being a leader.
Yes. Thanks, Kim. So, Kim, we've gotten to know each other over the years. You've been in Columbia with us and got to know the families, and we sat down and had dinner. When you think about the journey that you've taken, when you think of leadership, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges today that leaders are struggling with across all industries and different sectors and spaces throughout? What do you think are some of the biggest challenges we are facing with leadership in general?
Well, Ron, one of the biggest challenges that I see is that when leaders, especially young leaders, get into that chair, they don't always know what it is that they need to be doing. They've worked hard to get there, but those strategies won't help you stay in that chair. And so I published a book on that particular topic. It's called You're in the Leadership Chair, Now What? And it's really 10 strategies that will help primarily women, but for men also, be successful once they're in the chair. I have seen, unfortunately, leaders who are really focused on themselves and not on the people they have the privilege to lead.
Thank you for highlighting the book. We have the book, and we've been gifted, and we support the book. And I tell everybody that's listening, support other business owners. If they have a book, if they have a program, like ask questions. Because small businesses make up a large part of our society, and they need your support. So everybody that's listening and watching, I bring people on for a couple of things. One, to share and help educate, but two, they're business owners. They can use your support just as much. So thank you for sharing that. And at the end, I want to make sure people know how to get to your book. But let's go back a little bit. You work really hard, you become the technical expert, and you get promoted because of that. how do you get past that? Because it's easy to revert back to what you're good at, that you shine at, that makes you feel good and strokes your ego. But that's not necessarily what people want once you become a leader. How do you help us make the adjustment?
So it's a combination of approaches. First and foremost, when I mentor, coach young leaders, the first thing I ask them is, what is in your professional library?
Yes.
Because everyone should have a professional library. And most of the time, it's the technical materials that they needed to do the job that they were in before. So they may have a lot of books around sales, if they're in sales, or whatever their area is. But they don't have books that talk to them and help them become leaders. So what's in your professional library? Who are you looking at to help you grow in that new position? The second thing I talk to them about is hiring a coach. If you think about the greatest athletes in the world, Tiger Woods had a coach. Serena Williams had a coach. They were phenomenal athletes, world title winners, but they had a coach. Why? Because the coach helps bring out of you the skills that you need to be successful at that level.
Yes.
So that's the second thing I talk to them about. And the third is I remind them that they are no longer doing the job that they had before. As a leader, you get about 30 to 60 days of that 90-day window. Yes. Where people will give you the benefit of the doubt. But after about 60 days, they're looking to see really what are you doing as a leader, and you need to be prepared. So how do you set yourself up for success for the 90-day plan? So when I work with clients, that's one of the things we talk about, and we work through what does the 90-day plan look like? And then we also talk about how you now have to shift. You are now responsible to make decisions, but you don't do that in a vacuum. How do you delegate appropriately? How do you follow up? What are your meeting structures? It's those simple things that we don't think about that really indicate to people whether we are prepared to sit in that chair.
Yes. Thank you, Kim. So Kim, you have a military background as well as I do. And leadership has changed over time, and it's constantly changing even faster than it did over the decades we've been in leadership. So coming from the military, it's a command and control. I mean, which is an expectation. It's the military, but it's changed drastically from this command and control. What are you noticing the biggest changes of going from this command and control as people are leading differently? Because those days are almost over. Tell me, and I just do it because you said do it. What have you noticed as a change away from command and control? What do you see as the new style of leadership that's most effective today? So
the new style of leadership is collaboration. And it's distributed leadership. And you're right, Ron. When we came into the military, and I had that privilege of serving for 20 years and retiring, it was my way or the highway.
Yes.
Soldiers did what I told them to do because I was the boss. Yes. I had the rank on my collar, and what I said is what was done. That's not the world that we live in today, especially when we take our uniform off and enter into corporate America and put a different uniform on. So as a leader, and I'm currently a CEO of a large organization, I cannot just demand or direct or dictate. What I do is I build collaboration. Yes. And I never give up my responsibility as the leader. I always have the authority that comes with the title and the responsibilities of my duty. But I also understand that I don't know everything and that the people closest to the problem normally have the solution. So it's my responsibility to pull them into the discussion and have conversation. Therefore, I get the best information to make the best decision. So as a leader, I believe in distributive leadership and being a collaborative leader in which everyone in my organization is empowered to do the best job that they can do and help me do the best job that I can do.
I love it. I want to unpack something here, though. I mean, because it sounds easier than it is to do, easier to say than do. Yeah, because I hear you and I got it. When your name is on the line, your title's on the line, your reputation and your brand is on the line. How do you get to this place of trusting other people with your career? Because your evaluation is going to hinge on that. Your performance metrics and your KPIs are going to hinge on what other people do. How do you get to the place, or what did you do to get to the place where you're not always okay, but it has to happen? How do you get there?
Well, first and foremost, you are absolutely right about that. At the end of the day, as Harry Truman said, the buck stops here,
Yeah.
right? The same thing with you. The buck stops here. And we are the people held responsible by the people that hire us, our boards, our community, the public, that holds us accountable, and our customers. So for me, as I tell young leaders this all the time, the first thing that you have to do, and one of the most important things, is you have to hire the right people.
Yes.
That is critical. Hire the right people, people that you know can do the job that you need them to do. And that's what I do. I hire people based upon skill sets that I know that they need to be successful, because I cannot afford to do their job and my job.
Yes.
And I'm very clear with my leaders is that if I have to do your job, then I don't need you. I need you to do your job that you've been hired, because I trust you to do what it is that we need to get done. So I cast a vision, I hire well, and then I empower people. But the last step of that is accountability. You have to hold people accountable for the things that they are responsible for. And that means as a leader, you have to have tough conversations sometimes. And, as a woman of faith, I always go back to what the Bible tells me. I speak the truth in love. So I hold people accountable. I'll give you an example. We're coming into evaluation season in my organization. As I tell my folks, evaluation should never be a surprise, because you and I have been meeting monthly, normally twice a month, depending on the level of the person. And we are having conversations. So if you're doing what I need you to do, and you should know if you're not, because I've given you feedback. So your evaluation should not be a surprise to you, because we've had conversation throughout this year around expectations as well as outcomes that we need to see.
I got to go back a little. I put a card in reverse a little bit for us because we made an assumption that people are doing what you said, but I love it, but I want to process it if we can. You mentioned it shouldn't be a surprise. Mm-hmm. Can you walk back through the steps? How often as a leader should you be giving your people feedback and updates, to make sure that there are no surprises? Because not everybody's sitting down weekly or monthly. I would love to say that's true, but I know it's not because of the work I do.
Ron, I too have experienced that. Yes. In previous roles, where we didn't have meetings. And that's why, to me, it's very important to do that. So what I would say to those leaders, if I was coaching that leader, is, do you like surprises?
Yes.
So I always take it back to something personal where people can connect to. Do you want your board of trustees to surprise you in a meeting? The answer is no. No one wants that. Do you want to do a good job? Yes, everybody wants to do a good job. Well, in order for me to do a good job, I need feedback on what I'm doing. And so as a leader, once again, going back to your new role of responsibilities, you're no longer the person doing the work. You're the person leading the work.
Yes.
So you've got to work in the work and on the work. And that's what most people, young leaders especially, don't understand about their business. Yes, you need to work in the business, but you got to work on the business also. And meeting with the people that you have the privilege to lead on a regular basis, it does not have to be a 3-hour meeting. It can be a 30-minute check-in. Mine are 1 hour that I sit down. I ask my people to bring with them an agenda of what the meeting will be, topics they want to talk about, 2 one-pagers that explain anything that is new or continuing to work on. Yes. I ask for that up front so I can then be prepared when they come in. Now, if something is not going the way it's supposed to go, I don't wait to that bi-weekly meeting or monthly meeting. I will sit down with that person and ask questions. I find that when I ask questions, I can get to the person's thinking. Yes. Once I understand their thinking, then I can talk through better ways to make decisions as well as to take different actions. And so I try to structure my meetings in a way that I'm using my coaching skills
Yes.
instead of my military skills, right? Because nobody wants to come in and get chewed out or fussed at, because then you shut down creativity and innovation. What you want is to help that person understand where they made a mistake or how they could have done something differently and move it forward. So in my various leadership roles, one of the things I've always done is I've always been very upfront with my people. I will take all of the responsibility because I'm the leader. That's my job. Please don't put me in that position, though, to have to take responsibility for something that is not right.
Yes.
So if there's a problem, if you make a mistake, come to me and let me know. I don't throw people under the bus. I take responsibility, but we need to fix it.
I love it. I mean, and I love that you're walking through that, because I tell, the analogy I use for people, Kim, for our daughter in school, I said, how would you feel if they didn't give her every 4.5 weeks or weekly updates, and then at the end of the year you realize that your child is not getting promoted or not graduating? I say it's actually unfair. The school system has a phenomenal way of saying, we want to update you so your child has a chance to recover. They know where they stand. And you're getting a report. If you follow along as an involved parent, you should know exactly where your child is at every day, every week, every month, every quarter within that school system, if you do your part as a parent as well. So what role do we play to make sure our people feel like they are involved and engaged in their own success of their career? How do you make sure that they're leaning in and they're being a part of it, and you're just not the leader telling them and giving them all the answers?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, Ron, because in my meeting with my leaders, I have two additional questions that I ask them. Of course, we always talk about what's going on in their department, where are we at in reaching our KPIs, what are we doing to make sure that the vision that I've cast is moving forward in the right direction. But the two other questions that I ask is, what are you doing for your professional growth?
Yes.
And we have a conversation around, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is it that you want to be doing? Where do you want to go? And so because I'm dealing with senior leaders, several of them want to actually be the CEO of an organization. So we talk about, where are you currently at and what are you doing to enhance your skill set, put more tools in your toolbox to get you to that position? And then how can I support you? I'm not a leader that likes to hold on to people or hold people back, because I look at it from this perspective. If I help you get what you want, now I have a friend that I can call and help me when I need help. We have to be collaborative and support each other. But I also want to make sure that you're ready for that opportunity. And so that's where we talk about what else is in your professional library. Who are you listening to? What podcasts? What books are you reading? We talk about what conferences that you may be attending. What are you doing outside of your normal workday to set yourself up for that success? And how are you building all of that so that when your resume is placed in front of someone, it is enough to get you the interview? Because the resume only gets you in the door. Your interview is where you have an opportunity to really shine and demonstrate the skills that you bring to the table. So that's one question that I asked them. The second question that I asked them is, what are you doing for self-care? Because in today's world, there's a lot of pressure on leaders, and we have to have balance in our life. I don't believe in workforce balance, because depending on your job,
Yes.
your work may be, 6 days a week, like mine is, at different points of time. But I also make sure that I do find time in my calendar for self-care. And that's spending time with my family, doing things that we like to do, taking a vacation. I'm a big proponent of people taking their time off. I expect them to work when we're at work, but when you have vacation, take your vacation and enjoy it. So you have to have that self-care component, as well as what is your professional development or professional learning that you need to do to get to where you want to go. I have a coach. As the CEO, I still have a coach. I still have a professional learning plan, because I don't know everything, and I need to continue to sharpen my skills, because I cannot give what I don't have. And so it's just it's integral into who I am. And that's why I'm passionate about it. And that's why I ask my leaders about it.
Yes, yes. And what you made me think of when you say, hey, at my level, even I have a coach, one of the things John Maxwell says is that, you got to grow with your team. Otherwise, you're not putting a lid on them because you haven't gotten better. So Kim, as you talk about it, I want to, there are a couple of things I'd love to unpack, but I'm going to be mindful of our time so people can hang in with us. All this sounds like a lot of work. What do you tell the leader that says, what, I don't have time to do all those check-ins, or I don't have time, because there's so much expected of leaders and time is very valuable. And what do you tell the leader that said, I don't have time to do all of that? I hear you, Kim, but I don't have time to check in like that.
And then I would say we need to look at your calendar because you're spending time in other areas. If you go back to the, Eisenhower's matrix, or the 4 quadrants: urgent, important, not urgent. You may be in quadrant 3, which means you should be delegating more things that are not your responsibility anymore. And quadrant 4, time wasters. Who else is responsible for that? So I'll give you an example. My calendar is controlled by my executive assistant. I rarely put things on my calendar because that requires me to do the things that I need to do in my job, not the things I like to do. Yes. I would love to do some other things. And if it was left up to me, that's what my calendar would be full of, but it's not. And John Maxwell says this: if you want to know what's important to people as leaders, look at their calendar.
Yes.
And so you have to make time to meet with the people who directly report to you. They are the ones doing the work. So if you don't want to spend time explaining folks and taking responsibility for poor decisions or poor outcomes, spend time with the people doing the work, giving them the guidance that you are in the chair to do as the leader. And so that's why in my book, I give strategies that will set up that leader to be successful. And if you do that, you will increase your chances of achieving the outcomes that you want. So that's what I would say to that person is let's look at your calendar and let's see how the things that you're doing line up with the 4 quadrants of Eisenhower's matrix.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, as you're listening, get her book. Their strategies are in there. So you're in the leadership chair. Now what? There's some strategies that we'll be able to talk about. But the last question I asked before we really get into, how do people reach out to you and get in touch with you is you didn't make it here without mentorship. What role did mentors play in your life and how do you select one?
So you are absolutely right. My journey has been full of twists and turns. The path that I started on is not where I have ended up. And it's really because of mentorship. So I learned early in my career that I needed to have mentors. So I went to people who were not just my boss, but people who were their bosses and asked them, can I have just 30 minutes of your time? I have a few questions I would like to ask. And I have found that 90% of leaders will take that 30 minutes to sit down. And when you come prepared with questions. So I came prepared with questions. And as a result of that, several of those people decided, hey, I'd like to work and support you. Sometimes that work and support as a young officer was on the golf course. I played golf in a golf league, and I'm a terrible golfer, with my colonel, not my boss, actually 2 levels above me. But I had met him. I did a little information interview with him. And he said, I need a golf partner. I said, well, I really don't know how to play, sir. He said, I'll teach you. And every week we played golf in a golf league. Now, the benefit of that was every week I had to leave on time. My colleagues were like, where are you going? I said, play golf with the colonel. And they didn't like that, but that's okay. I was the only female officer. And it didn't bother me because I was determined to achieve at a level that I thought I could reach. And he would coach me. He would mentor me in that time that we were together. So I always encourage everyone to find mentors. Remember, your mentor's time is precious. So always come to the meeting prepared. The other thing is we have now not just books, we have podcasts, we have conferences that people can go to. I look for people who have done what I am currently doing, but done it with great success. And so some of my mentors are my peers. They've just been in the chair longer than I have and have achieved phenomenal success. Other people like John Maxwell. John has been a mentor to me through his books when I was a young second lieutenant. Then when he started his coaching company, I was a founding member. I joined right away. He is one of my mentors. And now he actually even endorsed my book. Do I see John and talk to John every day? No, it's primarily through his podcast, through his books that he still mentors me. But there are many ways that we can enhance our skill set and put more tools in our toolbox. The last thing I'm going to say about that is don't only look at people in your particular field of expertise, because leadership is leadership. It transfers to every business field. So look at other people. One of the folks that I really like is Alan Malawi.
Yes.
Alan Malawi was the CEO of Boeing, and then he became the CEO of Ford. Two very different industries, but leadership is leadership.
Yes, yes. I thought I had one last question, but I thought that was it. But you made me think of something. I know there had to be a time in your career where you're nervous or afraid of the next thing, but you wanted to do it. How do you help leaders get past? Because fear does show up, but it also paralyzes you. How did you get past those moments? Because sometimes we make people think we're not afraid of anything. I've been nervous at times, and I got promoted and like, oh crap, now they're gonna know what I don't know. How do you get past that fear or insecurity of thinking you got to know it all or you don't know it all? How do you get past fear in leadership?
Well, first and foremost, you surround yourself with good people. So who is in your inner circle that holds you accountable, that speaks truth to you, as well as supports and uplifts you? The second is, I call this the secret sauce of leadership. And it's one of the principles in my book, and it's confidence. Confidence that's based in knowledge and humility, not arrogance. It is perfectly okay to be afraid. When I took this position that I'm currently in, I did not know everything I needed to know. And I still don't know everything that I need to know. And that's where asking great questions as a leader makes a difference. But I'm also comfortable enough with my skill set and who I am to be able to say to people, I don't understand that. Please explain that to me. I recently had a conversation with one of our financial advisors around bonds and bond marketing, the bond market. And what I said to this person is, explain this to me because I am a neophyte, like I am managing my own personal budget. Break it down to that level of simplicity for me, because I have to make some decisions that are significant and are going to impact the financial status of our organization. So I need to know at a level that I feel comfortable with. And it's okay, because that is not my area of expertise to be able to say that. So what I would say is, yes, we all experience fear. Every one of us does. But it's how do we handle that fear? Confidence is our secret sauce. In order for us to be confident, we have to have knowledge and we have to be humble.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Kim, it's been phenomenal. I mean, a lot of great. So I'll go ahead and ask early while everybody's listening. They get to hear your response. I would love for you to come back in about another 3 to 4 months, because I want to be able to speak to something that you touched on. Two things, quite honestly, is how do you deal with some of the conflict that shows up for leaders and women in leadership? Because, I would love to be able to bring you on and you'll be able to speak to that. My wife speaks to it. You'll be able to speak to it. So I would love to be able to give our guests another opportunity to go in a different direction with the things that you personally experienced in those things of dealing with conflict and women in leadership. So what I would like to wrap up with, you do have your book, you do have a company. Can you highlight where can we get your book at? Show it to us and share it with us, and then tell us how we reach you.
Well, thank you, Ron. I'm very proud of this book. I wrote this book primarily because everybody that I would talk to and coach and speak to would say, do you have a book? And I would be like, no, I don't have. They're like, you should have a book. You've got a lot of great things. So my book is titled, You're in the Chair, the Leadership Chair, Now What? So you can find this book on my website, which is kimdmoore.com, or on Amazon. It is available in hardback, softback, and Kindle. I'm just very proud of it. And what I like to tell people up front is, this is my journey of how I got to be where I am today. How did I get to this chair? And how have I been successful in staying in the chair? And I tell young folks, there's some things in here that you're going to see that you don't like. For example, I talk about dress code. because every organization has a dress code, whether it's written down like in the military or not. There's a dress code. You may not like that dress code, but you're not there to determine the dress code. You're there to get to another level to achieve the goals that you have set. So you need to know what the dress code is of your organization and decide whether you want to comply or not. And if you don't, that's okay too. There's plenty of other organizations that you can go. So they think I'm a little old-fashioned sometimes, but that's okay, because I believe in having real talk with young leaders around what is expected of them. We talk about things like social media and that. And so I write a weekly blog post, and I have a podcast. All of that information is on my website of kimdmoore.com.
Yes. KimDMoore.com. Easy for you to find. Her book is out there, phenomenal. And let me tell you, I get to see her. She is about that dress code she dressed, but there's a secret behind that dress later. We'll talk about that another time. But she does dress every single time I've seen her. She's been dressed and she believes in it, but she's also down to earth and personable and accessible, so she's not hiding behind the walls of her organization. She's out in public facing and doing the work and rolling up her sleeves and participating and having fun. So being able to reach there, are there any tips that you'd like to leave? Are there 3 things or 2 things, whatever that number may be, that you say, hey, you know what, Ron, I'd like to leave the audience with this?
I would say, yes, there are 3 C's. I had the privilege of just recently giving a commencement speech in which I gave the graduates 7 C's of success. Well, I'm just going to share 3 of those. First and foremost is character. Please remember, your character is what you do when people don't see you. Character is also reflected in your social media posts. And young folks don't always recognize that. They think that's my personal life. It's separate from my professional life. It is not. It is a part of your life. So please keep in mind character and the company that you keep. That goes back to your question around mentorship. Who is in your inner circle? The second C, I would say, is to have courage. Courage means you stand up for the things that you believe, not in a belligerent way or a condescending way, but you have to know who you are and what you stand for. And that may mean that you can't work certain places or work for certain people because your integrity is on the line. And Ron, you know this, we hear this in the military. That's the first thing they teach us is never put yourself in a position where your integrity is questioned.
Yes.
And the last one I will say is connections. That's the last C. Because that is a C that most people don't really pay a lot of attention to, and it's building connections because you never know who you're going to meet and how you can help that person. And I always like to think of from the perspective of how I can help you versus putting my hand out asking for you to help me. But connections make a huge difference because you need sponsorship, not just mentorship. Who is in that room that will sponsor you, that will speak about you when you are not in the room? And that's where your connections become so important. But the key to connecting is not to have a hand out, but to have a hand where you're helping people up.
Yes, I love it. I mean, Kim is on the show because of the connections, because of relationships, and who's saying your name in rooms that you're not in, that's advocating and sponsor. I love that you talked about the connections. I love that you talked about your social media. That is so important that once you post it on any device, it's available to the world. And I think oftentimes we forget that. So as you're listening, what Kim is sharing, it's super important. Build your relationships before you ask for anything. I think we've been knowing each other for going on at least 2 years. And now you're on the show, but we just kept having, conversations and relating, say, hey, how can I help you? And so she's helping me by being on the show to come on and say, here's what I want to share. And for us, it's a connection, but Kim and I do a lot of work together, almost the same type of work. We're not in competition. We're cooperating with each other to support our community. For all of our stakeholders, the 2 of us can do a lot more together than we can do apart. Mm-hmm. So figure out how to work with people that do what you do without all the conflict in our society. So don't become a part of that. So thank you. Kim, once again, can you show us the book? And then we're going to close out. Yes, please go out, support her. You're in the leadership chair. Now what? We do have it. My wife reads the book. And she said it up front, she signed the book for Linda. She didn't sign a book for me. That went to Linda. So no, Kim is on this show because she's doing this for Linda. And we say that, but she really does support Linda. And I think we need to see more of that across the board. So thank you for supporting Linda. Thank you for supporting our organization as we continue to do work and support our community together. For all you that are listening, feel free. If you know guests that will come and add value to our community, that's super important. It's not so much about getting in front of the camera or getting on the show. Is what are you going to do to help us do the work that we're really trying to do? No time is more important than now for leaders to show up and support one another and put positive messages out. So, Kim, thank you for coming on. Thank you for everyone that stayed with us to listen to the show. We release every single Monday, and we love adding value and making a difference. That's what we stand for. People always matter. Until next time, Kim and I will sign off and tell you to enjoy your day. And thank you for joining Unpacked with Ron Harvey.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this edition of Unpacked Podcast with leadership consultant Ron Harvey. Remember to join us every Monday as Ron unpacks sound advice, providing real answers for real leadership challenges. Until next time, remember to add value and make a difference where you are for the people you serve, because people always matter.